Welcome to 5 Live Boxing. It was a weekend of history and legacy at the O2. Unforgettable and unbelievable fights. And a real statement of glory for women's boxing. 2 world title fights, both exceptional. Alicia Baumgardner beat Michaela Mayer in the super featherweight battle. But the real fight, the real contest, was at middleweight. All 4 belts, Savannah Marshall and Claressa Shields. Unbeaten women. What a night, what a fight. It was even better than we expected, and we expected a lot. I have Claressa Shields, Savannah Marshall and Alicia Baumgardner on this show. I'm Steve Bunce and this is 5 Live Boxing. It was indeed a special night. Now, to talk me through it and hold my hand, as we say in the trade, I've called back the expert's expert, actually, because she fought both Claressa Shields and she obviously fought Savannah Marshall. I'm joined by Hannah Rankin. In fact, when I introduce you now, Hannah, I don't say former world champion. You're just Hannah Rankin. That's an upgrade, trust me. Hannah, before we talk specifically about the 2 world title fights, the night itself, I know you weren't there, you were working elsewhere, but could you get a sense of it? Could a sense of what a history that we were living and making last night?
Absolutely. It was an incredible atmosphere. You could just see how full the O2 was. It was just amazing to see that. And also the different sort of crowd that was there. You know,
and it was different, you know that, don't you?
Totally different. You know, mums and dads and their kids, their daughters. It's just a totally different vibe, but everyone was so excited for the fights. And, you know, the women didn't disappoint. It was just a great show all round.
It wasn't just that the fights were good, you know. It was the whole, the event thing, but it was the walk-ins.
Yeah.
It was everything. And in fact, I've got a bone to pick with you, and let's get this out of the way right at the top of the show. Now, I would never. I know that you were in camp with Claressa, and I would never pull you aside and say, Hannah, what's she going to do? I wouldn't do that out of respect for you and out of respect for the brotherhood and sisterhood of the fighting men and women. I wouldn't do it. But when I said to you quite clearly, about a week ago, is there anything special planned? And you didn't say what Claressa was going to do at the walk-in, and yet you knew
I do.
That's going to be a problem between us going forward, because that was the most amazing ring walk she did. It was an audition for wrestling. Let's get that right. It was brilliant, and you knew all about it. You'd been part of the dance routine practice in Miami. I've got to tell you, Hannah, I'm a little bit upset with you.
Well, I hope you can forgive me, but I bet you enjoyed it even more because you didn't know. And
yeah, okay,
it was super exciting. And obviously, when we were in Miami, I got a sneak preview of a few things that were going to happen. And I just couldn't wait for her walkout to start because I knew everybody was going to be completely overwhelmed at how incredible it was. You know, it was a whole new level of a walkout. You know, you're doing a dance routine. She
proper dance
it.
routine, not just 5 seconds of something.
Proper dance
routine.
Well, you know, Claressa is an entertainer as well. She loves to be entertaining people, and you know, she does a lot of her dance routines on TikTok and things like that. It's what she kind of relaxes to and things. So I knew she was going to come out and showcase that.
So we get to the fight, we get to the first bell, the 2 of them are there, and there's about 5 seconds of touchy-feely, looking, exploring, and then it takes off, and you can just see the grit and determination in Claressa Shields. She's digging her toes in the canvas, something that I always look for, after about 10 or 15 seconds. And we get that incredible exchange after about 1:20 at the first round, where she connects and connects and connects. So much so, I feared at that point for Savannah Marshall. That was a Claressa Shields we've seen in little bits. A little bit against you, a little bit against this woman, a little bit against that woman. But suddenly, that was 2 minutes. I have not seen that 2 minutes of Claressa Shields. I suspected it was there. You knew it was there.
Yeah.
How was that as a friend, former sparring partner and former opponent for you? You must have sat back and gone, yeah, that's the Claressa I know.
That is the Claressa I knew, and I knew this was going to be the night that we all saw everything come together on a whole new level from Claressa Shields. And when the fight started, I thought, here we go. Yeah. This is going to be amazing. But huge shout out to Savannah. You know, she kept her cool, she kept her hands up, and I was really worried at the beginning, you know, like, obviously, I was like, maybe Claressa's going to stop her in the first round. But, you know, she kept it cool, she kept going, and she had her hands up, she rocked and rolled with it, and she came back again. And she never stopped coming forward in that fight, bringing the fight. And that's what made it so exciting all the way through.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've spoken to a couple of people who are really judge, and one of them said, you know what, it was really close, really close. And one of them said, no, the rounds were competitive, but Claressa won just about all of them. Now, I'm somewhere in the middle. I thought that rounds that even Claressa won were competitive rounds, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And that's because, as you said there, Savannah Marshall never stopped trying. Not only did she not give up, she never stopped trying different things. Switching to southpaw, coming in from this side, leading to the body, leading to the head. And of course, what would happen? And it's an old trick, is that Claressa would rally in the last 10 seconds of every single round, and she'd finish strong. She talked. Do you remember last week? She said, "I'm going to do a Sugar Ray Leonard on you."
Yep, I don't remember.
She did some Sugar Ray Leonard stuff. She finished every round to catch everyone's eye.
Absolutely, and I think that's what made the difference, And sometimes in boxing, you don't really get a fair sort of perspective when you hear scorecards and things of a fight, because, Savannah was competitive in every single round, but it was Claressa's skill set. She would up the game in that last sort of 10 seconds, land that big shot, and it'd be the one that would catch the judge's eye. And it was just so impressive to watch both of them. I really, really genuinely enjoyed it as a fan as well.
I mean, there were moments, certainly in round 6 and 7 and 8, when Savannah was having, without doubt, her best rounds, and I think I gave her 2 or 3 of those, definitely. Well, not definitely, but I did. I favoured her in 2 or 3 of those rounds. But you just could see a determination. If Claressa was not hurt, if she was caught, pushed back, which she admitted to me afterwards in the interview. She said, she could push me back. She's tough. She's the best I fought. She's this, she's that. The praise was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Not immediate, but unbelievable when it came out. It was like the floodgates open. She would still come back with something. Plus, she was looking to do stuff. There's small things, which I'm sure you saw in sparring, where she'd block and cover. She was just looking for a particular shot. I mean, it seems bizarre because it was brutal and it was a slugfest, but it was also a lot of chess going on.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of mindful, clever boxing going on.
This is what I said in the lead up to this, is that I think Claressa's boxing IQ is a little bit underrated, and I think it's not really appreciated. So last night was a night where she really showcased that. She was setting things up. She was always looking for that opening, always trying to lead Savannah into something so she could land those shots. And yes, she did take some big shots from Savannah, and that's what something
you're entitled to.
It's boxing, and it was a great fight. But I just think she showcased her boxing IQ really, really well. And there were some things that we'd done in sparring. I'd seen her doing sparring when we were out in Miami, and I was watching it. I was like, I know what she's trying to do here. And it was so exciting for me to watch.
She seemed determined. She seemed determined to me, obviously, to leave an impression, but she also seemed determined to try and stop Savannah, just to leave a double impression. I mean, I don't see. There was so much of previous Claressa that we didn't see last night. The Claressa that floats around people and hits them with 5 punches, then stands back and admires it. That was in some ways, even though you knew that Claressa was there, and I suspected there was parts of that there, it was a very un-Claressa performance, because she had to dig deep, because she wasn't going to. I don't think she was going to win that by pretty boxing last night.
No.
Because if as hard as it was, she still had to fight to the very end. Had she floated and relied on just her skills purely, then it would have been a fresher Savannah Marshall down the home stretch, and that might have been a more dangerous Savannah Marshall. She had to go in the trenches. She had to have that hard fight to, in my opinion, to secure victory late on.
Absolutely, and I think she knew coming into this fight it was going to be one of her hardest fights, and she respected Savannah. She knew it was going to be one of the ones where she had to really showcase what she could do, all of the things that she could do, and I think that was probably part of Savannah's game plan, was to keep that high pace going and maybe tire her out and try and come on strong in the later rounds, and because she carries her power throughout the rounds.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I could see that as a game plan, but I know Claressa's conditioning is on point, and she is one of the fittest people I know. So
all our talk about the GWOAT, which is obviously it's a tricky acronym, it's an ugly acronym. GWOAT is horrible. That's neither here nor there. And part of that fun was the way she said, "Well, I'm not the self-proclaimed GWOAT, but I am the GWOAT," which of course is a contradiction in terms. That's fine. It's irrelevant. But after last night, and after talking to her, we'll hear from her in a second, I was thinking about it. I was running back in my mind. I know Lucia Riker was a great fighter, and Christy Martin raised the profile, and Layla Ali might have been great, but she wouldn't fight Ann Wolf. So all of that stuff, and Katie Taylor's there. And I was thinking about it last night, and I was thinking, it was a late night last night, and I was thinking, you know what? Right now, she probably is the best female boxer we've ever had. Anyway, don't comment on that, because let's hear from Claressa. Now, bear in mind, this was her talking to me in the ring 9, 10, 11 minutes after she'd had her hands raised?
It was a great fight. Savannah Marshall is definitely a tough competitor, but I knew I was the better fighter tonight, and I just did everything I could to get the win.
In the first 4 rounds, you were brilliant, you were flawless, and then it got harder and harder. Even though you were winning rounds, they were still hard rounds. How hard did you feel it was, Claressa?
It was really hard because round 7, she hit me with a shot in round 7, and I couldn't see out my right eye for the rounds, I think 6, 7, and 8. My vision came back, and I was able to do more, but I was still fighting with my vision out, and I was like, look, if she hit me with a big shot, you make sure you hit her back with 2 or 3 big shots, and she dropping that left, come over with that right hand and catch her. And it was like I was catching her, but she's so big and strong, she like, it didn't hurt her, she thought, but I just kept landing it over and over again, and it was having some effect.
Because some of the punches you were connected with were absolutely brilliant. They were perfect, and as you say, she was walking through them, and you know you can punch.
Yeah, she's a big girl. She's big for the weight class, but that's why I went down to the body and I was chopping her down there. And just have to not be on the ropes. I think if I wouldn't have been on the ropes, it would have been a wider decision for me.
Well, she pushed you back to the ropes because, as you say, she's a big girl.
Yeah, and I pushed her back against the ropes because I'm a big girl too.
Hey, listen, no one's ever going to doubt that you're a big girl. For you personally, does it really mean as much as I think it means after that 10-year wait, that little blip, that little defeat that time? Does it mean that much to you?
I'm 3-time undisputed champ. 2 times at 160. It means everything to me. People always say, Claressa, you're the self-proclaimed GOAT. No, I'm not. I can be any female boxer you put in front of me. Rather, she's a big puncher, faster, slicker, taller, whatever you want to say. I can adapt, and I can win, and I can bite down when it gets hard against anybody. So I am the greatest woman of all time. And if nobody believed me when I said it back then, they got to believe me now because Savannah Marshall hits like a damn man.
You know what? No one's ever going to doubt you being the greatest woman of all time. No one's going to doubt that. Let me ask you this. It was good to see the pair of you at the end talking. What was said?
Just that we're both. I told her she's a great fighter and that she punches hard and that I appreciate competing against her. We both did everything we could today, and then it came out to be my decision because I did more. But I would say it's a mutual respect. You know what I'm saying? She's a good fighter, but I always knew that I was better, and I knew that throughout the years of 10 years, you know, I have done more. I have done more than Savannah, but it was like she was getting the credit because she beat me 10 years ago. Now I won where it matters. With all the belts on the line, 20,000 people, millions across the world, I did it. And then I proved today I am the greatest woman of all time from Flint, Michigan. Ain't that something?
That is something, you know, and you can be really proud. And I'll tell you now, it was a privilege being ringside tonight and being part of it. It was an absolute privilege to be working at ringside tonight.
I appreciate everybody who came here to support me, to support Savannah, to support this women's card. I mean, I dreamed of things like this. I just never thought I would get to experience it, so I'm just so happy to be here. And I would love to come back.
Yeah, and finally, don't steal my questions. That's going to be my question. Are you coming back?
I mean, you guys got a lot of world champs at 154. I would love to fight against them. Whoever the fans think is the best, that's who I'll fight.
Claressa, thank you very much indeed, and we'll see you back in London.
Welcome, thank you.
Claressa Shields there. Now, I'm going to tell you that she was clutching those belts like 5 or 6 lost puppies that she thought she'd left behind somewhere, and she was clutching them. She was cradling them on her chest. You know, she loves them. It means so much to her having them. But more than that, that victory means so much to her. So the first question to you is quite simple, Hannah. Where does she go from now? Because there's no sort of Caroline Dubois in the middleweight ranks chasing her. There's no unbelievable force at light heavy that could drop down. I mean, there's a load of good light middles, yourself included, out there. There is, don't get me wrong. But that feels like it'd be going over old ground, and that's no disrespect to you and anyone else that's that's lost to her in the past. Where does she go from here, Hannah?
So I know she mentioned dropping back down to 154 with the new champions and things at that weight. But I think this was that fight. Every fighter has that fight, you know, and you look way back in the past and you see those fights that were made up together, there'll always be that dance partner. And when you find that dance partner and you have that fight, there's always the option for a rematch or like a trilogy or something like this.
That's my gut feeling, because there's no disrespect to you or the other light middleweight champions, super welterweight champions that are out there, but she's been over that ground.
Yeah.
You know, you'd give her 10 competitive rounds 10 days of the week. I know you would. Trust me. I know you would. I mean, I'm not saying that because you're sitting there. You would. Hannah Rankin gives Claressa Shields 10 competitive rounds. You lose, but you give it. And I mean, and that's no disrespect, but you're giving her the rounds. So Natasha Jonas and Terry Harper and the other big welterweights or small light middles, whatever, they'll compete. They'll compete. But the actual dance partner does seem to be Savannah Marshall. She's not keen on a rematch. Hey-ho, Savannah is. We'll hear from Savannah in a moment. But I'm going to throw it out there again, and I know I mentioned it at the top. Wasn't that fantastic dance routine? Wasn't that half an audition for the wrestling world? She's already been in MMA, but because she's made for that game. I mean, surely, because she is an entertainer at heart and an athlete.
Yeah, and I think this is what people forget about Claressa. She is an all-round incredible athlete. You know, and the fact that she went in to start a brand new career in MMA, starting at the bottom, debuting in a brand new sport, that takes such guts.
Not knowing most of the MMA sports, apart from punching.
Apart from punching, you know, and so she had to go and learn the groundwork. She had to learn how to kick. She had to learn all of that. I admire her so much for that, because that takes bravery to go and start a brand new sport when you're the top of your game in another one, to go and do that. But then I think it's Claressa. Yeah. She's a great athlete, and she's going to push herself to find that new challenge that she wants to do.
Well, I'm going to give you this one. Close your eyes and dream of this. This is the name of the show. It's a massive show on terrestrial TV in America. It gets 60 million viewers. It's called Claressa Shields, Greatest Athlete of All Time. And you know what we do over a 2-year period? We get her a gold medal in the Winter Olympics in the bobsleigh. Okay, we get her to climb Everest. Okay, we get her to horse race in the Kentucky Derby, because there's almost nothing this woman can't do. So we get her to do those things, not play at basketball like Roy Jones did. I'm talking about the real McCaw. She devotes a year of her life to become the ultimate crossover athlete. Bosh, gold medal, Winter Olympics. Bosh, Kentucky Derby rider. Bosh, climbs Everest unassisted, no oxygen, shadow box at the top. Why ever not? Claressa Shields, greatest athlete of all time. Listen, I can see you thinking, you're smart, Hannah's smart. Hannah's going, ooh, exec producer on that show. Yes, please. Listen, it was an absolute glorious night. It was absolutely brilliant. I went backstage afterwards to speak to Savannah Marshall. Mm-hmm. Because I missed her in the ring, she was taken out. So as I got there, she was just going into UCAD, the drug tester. She was in there quite a long while, 40 or so minutes, which can happen. And when she came back in, I mean, the night was on her face. A few bruises, few cuts, but just that look. So I had a chat with her, which is never easy, talking, especially if you like the game and you're invested in the game. It's not as you don't just stick a microphone under someone's mouth when they've lost a fight like that means that much. But she did speak to me, and if I say so myself, I thought she was quite brilliant.
It was a tough fight, and I had to dig deep, but I thought the right woman won. Yeah, I thought it was close. Mm-hmm.
But you pushed her. You've had a fight with her, and no one's had a fight with her like that. You've never been in a fight like that. She's never been in a fight like that. You pushed each other to ridiculous places.
Yeah, 100%. I thought, obviously it's different when you're in there, but I thought I was catching her with a cleaner shot. But she just kept catching me with a backhand at the end of the round, Yeah,
she nicked the last 10 seconds several times, and you dominated or won the first sort of 70 or 80 or 90 seconds. Were you surprised by anything that she did? Was she better than you thought, maybe?
I thought she might have been faster. But she's a brilliant fighter. She's a brilliant fighter. I'm not going to take anything away from her. And like I said, the right woman won tonight.
There were moments when you caught her with your right hand and she went back to the ropes and you hit her with sinking body shots. Then she dug her feet in and came back. It was like Rocky.
Yeah, definitely. She's tougher than what I thought.
So what's the plan now for you, the immediate plan? Next 24 hours, next couple of weeks?
I'm going to have the rest of the year off, and then come back next year and then just see what's available for me. That was my last fight with Boxer and Sky, so see if they offer me another contract.
And would you like Claressa Shields again?
Oh, 100%. It's the biggest fight out there for me, and I'd love to do it again.
It's been great this week. Go and spend some time with your family and your loved ones. Thanks for all your efforts this week, Seb.
Thank you very much.
Savannah Marshall there, obviously, well, she's in the place you'd expect her to be, but she'll perk up, she'll pick up. She's surrounded by people she loves, and she's surrounded by people that love her. And one of those is, of course, her coach, the coach that's transformed her, Peter Fury. A man who always looks at both sides, a man that always seems to find a positive take, a man that lives and breathes positivity and goodness. So I had a chat with Peter once again in that dressing room. And by the way, this dressing room wasn't as solemn as you'd imagine. You know, I'm not saying they were celebrating, but they knew they'd been part of history. Here's me with Peter in the small hours after the fight.
Savannah's good. Savannah can be proud of herself. She's a proper fighting woman. That's what we need. Yeah. We need more fights like this. Who said that women can't fight? Yeah. That was a dogfight.
They'll never say it again, Peter.
Never say it again after tonight. That's a proper unification fight, not a jibber-jab up and down mess.
A proper
Get
fight.
in, got stuck in, punch for punch. Claressa stepped up to it.
Yeah.
Full credit to her.
Best Claressa I've seen.
Exactly. You know, and this is the best Savannah we've seen, so it was a terrific fight.
They dug their toes in. They had to come back. They were tired. They caught each other with great shots. I mean, some of it was stunning. Some of it was staggering.
Obviously, you know, Savannah's a winner, and she'll be disappointed she hasn't got the win. But looking back on it, she'll be very proud of that performance. 7-3 was ridiculous. The scorecards there didn't have that. I thought it could have went either way, but after looking back. However, Claressa's got it. Full credit to her. Yeah. She's got the win. Rightly so.
Claressa had a really particularly good, sharp, fast start. I mean, I'm not going to be one of those guys who's an after-time and said I knew she would do that. I had no idea that she would try that in the first 3 or 4 rounds with that hand speed and taking it to Savannah. I was stunned by that. Were you and Savannah a bit surprised by that?
No, we knew we trained for what she was going to do. You know, look, it's not easy to stand off a very quick, slick boxer. Yeah. When you're bigger, you're stronger, you've got more power, use your advantages. So Savannah brought it to her, and it made a very entertaining fight.
It made an absolutely brilliant fight. When Savannah was coming back at the end of each round, you could see that she was fine. You could see that she still had plenty in the tank.
Yeah, you know, I was saying to her in the corner, come off your feet a bit, step a bit more, step to the side. But, you know, use your short shots as well. You know, pick it up, more speed, and you know, listen, it is what it is. Yeah. But let's get the rematch. Yeah. Get it on again next year, and away we go again, Steve.
Peter Fury there, using that great expression, she's a real fighting woman, applicable to both of them. Now, earlier on I spoke to Mick Hennessy, who of course is Savannah's long-term promoter, and he floated the idea and said that perhaps we need to talk about it, and it's the 3-minute rounds. Now, we don't have enough time today to actually go into it fully and completely, but let me just point out that at the Olympics, the women box 3-minute rounds. Once you turn professional, it's 6, 8 and 10 2-minute rounds. Yeah. So just briefly, Hannah, because it's not something you can just flippantly throw away. On the 3-minute round issue, where do you stand in simple terms?
Personally, I'd love 3-minute rounds. I'm a 3-minute round fighter. It would suit me all day long. And I think there's a lot of fighters, especially now coming through the Olympics, that would love to stay at 3 minutes. I think it also does us a disservice. You know, we don't get the 12 rounds that the guys get for championship fights. And if you want to do something sort of in the middle, at least we start giving us 12 twos, because when you get to world title
level... That would be
level,
a good start, wouldn't it?
It'd be a good start.
We could have done with 12 twos last night in both of the world title fights, couldn't we?
Absolutely. Another 2 rounds. There's a lot of world title fights where you see that, you think 2 more rounds, championship rounds that the guys get, that would just change the play of the fight. It could be that massive turnaround like in the Mick Conlon Lee Wood fight.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things that could happen with those next 2 rounds.
So let me ask you this. You've had, I can't remember how many 10-round fights have you prepared for? Title fights have you prepared for? Quite a lot.
Yeah, quite a lot now.
So 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that. Right. So you prepared for, let's say, 8, 10-round championship fights over the years. Because let me just say this, and imagine Hannah isn't here. Hannah's career doesn't sit like the rest of the women's boxing. Hannah is a throwback, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. So you prepared for 8 or 9 or 10-round fights. How much different do you imagine it would be if those 10-round fights were 10 threes or even 12 threes? How much different? It's a lot of minutes difference, but how much different would it be for you, do you think?
I just think it would be massively different, you know.
And you'd want it?
I want it, yeah, definitely. I just feel that we need that to create the depth in women's boxing, because you had Lauren Parker working with you last night. She just boxed 10 2-minute rounds for an IBO Intercontinental title. Yeah. Then we had Claressa Shields and Savannah Marshall box 10 2-minute rounds.
For all the belts.
For all the belts, all the marbles.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So there has to be some sort of differentiation.
So Lauren's either got to do 8 twos, or we've got to do 12 twos, or 12 threes, or 8 threes.
Yeah,
of course.
something. There's got to be a differentiation, because otherwise, you've got girls stepping up to fight maybe for a world title because they've done 10 twos, but they're not ready to fight for world title level, and it doesn't allow that depth to grow in the division.
When you spar, and without giving too much away, I'm not asking you for your dance routine, don't worry. When you spar, do you spar 3s or 2s?
I spar 2s because I fight 2s.
Cool.
But, I think 3-minute round sparring is actually quite useful as well. So
of course, yeah.
There's a chance, there's always a case to do some of that in training. But I think, I'm fighting 10 twos, I'll train 10 twos.
And I absolutely agree. If you're a marathon runner, you don't run 800-metre sprints, of course. So that's fine. I wanted to get that, and that's a debate that we'll
Ongoing.
run. And perhaps we'll get together one day with a few people across the board and have a chat about that, because I don't think it's as straightforward. Because one of the things that would have to be addressed would be the money.
Yes, that's what Claressa said to me once. She said, if you're going to fight 3-minute rounds, you want to be paid 3-minute round money. That's what she said, and at the moment, that's not the case in women's boxing in comparison to the guys.
Absolutely, because, last night, the 2 world titles, we'll talk about Alicia Baumgardner and Michaela Mayer in a second, but those 2 fights, they lasted 20 minutes. Had they been over 12 threes, they would have lasted 36 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're talking about nearly 100% more in space, 80% or whatever it works out. Would there be I'd assume you'd want 80% more money if you're boxing 80% more. I mean, if my slave driver producer said to me, I need 4 pods a day instead of the normal 2 that I do, I'd want more money for it.
Absolutely. And I think Claressa's completely right when she says that, and I totally agree. If you're going to be fighting the same as the guys, why are we not getting paid the same?
To be continued, that
Yes.
one. To be continued. Because me, I'm not as black and white on it just yet.
Yeah.
Because I see the benefits and I see the drawbacks. And a lot of mine is financially motivated.
I think the 12 twos is a good compromise, and I think that's where we should be moving towards.
No, that is now become the ranking clause. is the 12 twos is the ranking clause. I'm going to speak to Robert Smith at the board. I think we can get that one off the ground. Now, there was another world title fight on the bill, one that you and I talked about last week, and the animosity even grew from when you and I spoke last week, and that was Alicia Baumgardner putting her super featherweight world title on the line against unbeaten Michaela Mayer, putting 2 of hers, and I think she may have even had the ring belt. It's a bit confusing keeping up with the belts, if you don't mind me saying so. It was an odd fight. It was a terrific fight. It was a gripping fight, but it was a fight of many stages and ended in a split decision victory for Baumgardner. Many people thought Mayer won. Many people thought Baumgardner won. Now, what was your initial take? The final bell goes. Before we talk about the fight, who'd won the fight in your mind?
My initial thought straight away was, I think this is a draw.
Yeah.
That's how I had it. And I said if I was going to err towards anyone, I probably would have gone Michaela. Yeah. But really, truthfully, I had it a draw. Yeah. And it was a very close fight. And, I had Alicia Baumgardner coming on strong at the very beginning. She was just much more relaxed. And whereas
too
Mayer was
mobile, too slick the first 2 or 3 rounds.
Absolutely. And Mayer was
Michaela
quite...
seemed flat-footed and
a bit stiff.
And tense, man.
Tense, really tense,
shoulders are up, and I could see it from ringside.
But then she came back into the fight in the middle
time.
rounds, and she started to really execute what she wanted to do. Then Baumgardner came back, and then Mayer came back. So it was a real nip and tuck fight. So that's why I scored it a draw in my mind. But if I was going to err towards one, it would have been Michaela. But a lot of people were really surprised that she didn't win it. That the kind of outpouring on Twitter that I had was and people saying it's a robbery, which I think is a ridiculous phrase.
No, it was not a robbery under any circumstances. I thought Michaela deserved it, but not. It wasn't a screaming robbery. I thought that Michaela, after about 2 or 3 or 4 rounds, started to come on and take a few more risks. She was caught. She was hurt in the first couple of rounds by the big right hand. And in fact, Baumgardner Alicia could barely miss her with that right hand. Then Michaela adjusted slightly. Al Mitchell, the great coach, a legendary, iconic coach in the corner, helped her a little bit adjust. So she was avoiding the shot a little bit more, moving away from it. And then Alicia seemed to tire, but then Alicia came back. I mean, it was over. It was taken over by the great fight we've been talking about, Shields and Marshall. But it was it was a standalone modern classic in this year. This brilliant, savage, which you've been a part of, this incredible year of women's fights. I mean, was that 10 or 15 global fights with interest? So even your fight with Terry Harper, I don't want to remind you about a defeat.
No.
It's a fight that captures the imagination.
Absolutely.
So and then obviously what Natasha Jonas has done, obviously Katie Taylor and Serrano, the two we had there. What a year! It's been a staggering year.
It's been so exciting.
So Michaela Mayer, I tried to speak to Michaela Mayer afterwards, and she was George Ruiz, her manager, who's a friend of mine. He said, "Steve, it's not the right time. We'll speak to her." She was a little bit broken. She thought she'd won.
She was very frustrated.
She was very frustrated, very angry.
Yeah.
She jumped out of the ring, but they luckily stopped her from leaving the ring, doing an AJ, as we call it these days. She was a bit broken. She was a bit upset, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
She thought she'd won, but I just hope the people around her don't tell her she walked it by a mile, because she didn't. I thought she could have it. But I did get up into the ring and speak to Alicia Baumgardner, who, of all the celebrations I've seen and all the years I've been ringside, that was a top 3 celebration. The joy as she crouched down and heard her name and she jumped.
Yeah.
I mean, she was up there like Michael Jordan at his best. She's only about 5'5". She was about 11 foot in the sky. She nearly hit the ring lights. And she was just screaming with relief. Here's Alicia Baumgardner talking to me in the ring at the O2 on Saturday night.
Alicia, first of all, was it easier or was it harder than you expected?
It was easier. You know, her game plan, I thought she was going to come be a dog, come forward. But she fit her right into my game plan. I outboxed her. I landed the cleaner shots. I made it look pretty. I landed that jab beautifully, just clocking her every time she was coming in. And I did it, man.
You did do it, and in the first round you were catching with a right hand. It seemed to maybe make her think twice about putting pressure on you. Was that the impression you got?
Absolutely. She knew what the right hand was going to do. And again, I have a strong jab, and I kept that jab pumping and let the right hand come.
And did you think it was close at the end, a split decision, or did you think you just done enough to win?
I did it. I won. I'm the unified champion of the world.
You just wanted to win and be the unified champion, don't you? Really?
What?
You don't care how you did it. You just wanted to win.
I won. That's all that matters. I got the win.
And you did go over at the end, and you did put your arm on her shoulder. Did you say anything to her? Did she say anything to you?
I told her thank you. I told her good job again, and thank you for the opportunity. That's what I told her.
Now, it was such a compelling fight. Every second of it was brilliant to watch. It was, honestly, you've got to be congratulated. It was a beautiful fight to watch, and it was a split decision. There'll probably be a call for a rematch. Can you do Super Feather?
You're not getting no rematch. I'm going after Choi for undisputed.
You're staying at Super Feather?
Yes, sir.
Alicia, let me ask you, have you got a message for the British fans? Because they filled this arena tonight. There's 20,000 people in here tonight to watch a night of women's boxing, and you're right at the centre. Have you got a message for that British public?
I just want to say I'm so thankful for London for showing me love, continuous love, from the Terry Harper fight to the Matisse fight and now to the Michaela Mayer fight. I'm thankful. So very blessed.
Alicia, thank you very much. Thank you for tonight, and thank you for your time this week. Thanks very much.
Alicia Baumgardner there talking to me in the ring. She doesn't want a rematch. She wants to go and do full unifications. That's fine. I still feel there's an inevitability about these two fighting again, even if it's not at super featherweight, because they're not super featherweights. And I mean that nicely, Hannah.
Yeah.
I mean, you go and boil down, you could get down to light welter. You can't walk. You wouldn't be able to walk to the bar and buy me a pint, but you could get down to light welter. These two don't like each other.
No.
And they still don't like each other.
No, absolutely not. And you could see that at the end of the fight. Yes, there was an embrace.
You had to slow your camera down to see it.
Absolutely. I mean, it was almost sort of like, this should probably happen. We've done 10 rounds of war, and people like to see this, but we don't like each other, and we still don't like each other.
And what I would do, and the people running their careers, Bob Arum, he knows a bit about boxing.
A little bit, yeah.
Brian Peters, who's in charge of Alicia Baumgardner, who knows an awful lot about boxing, the Irish promoter, manager and fight fixture. Those two men are really bright men. They're very wealthy men. Mm-hmm. They know their stuff. A rematch between these two, even if there was no titles, even if there was no belts, I don't know, up at 140 or 139, give them 8 or 9 pounds to grow, which they'll do naturally. I think that could be sold in America because some of the things that were said last week were spiteful, not quite disgraceful, but spiteful.
Yeah.
Then we saw a fight where, imagine if you edit in the highlight clips from that fight, especially at the end with them not looking. Yeah. That could be spicy, that could be brilliant.
I think that's a great American fight going forward for women's
Absolutely.
boxing at a catch weight.
It's one that I think we will see in the future,
hope
definitely, especially in America, because in their home country, the build-up for that fight, I think, would be incredible. But it is interesting that Elisa's like, no, I want unifications. I don't want there won't be a rematch. And obviously, I think Michaela will have something to say about that because, she's worked hard to get to that position and she feels that she won the fight. So she's going to be very frustrated about it. I did wonder whether she was going to consider stepping up a weight class, going up to the next division. But,
She might bypass a weight class and go 2 up.
Yeah, she might. Absolutely. But... congratulations to Baumgardner because she, that, like you said, her celebration was brilliant.
And what I'd like to hear is from Michaela. I'd like to hear from her what we heard in that interview I did with Savannah Marshall. The best woman won tonight, and that's what I want to hear from Michaela Mayer. I want to hear that because I want that to be part of what a boxer should be. I know you and Claressa, even after she beat you. You didn't get on. You were eyeing each other up at the drug testing afterwards, and you were still snarling at each other. That's understandable. I don't mind that. But you're big enough. You're a big enough gal to hold your hands up. And I'm hoping Michaela Mayer's a big enough gal to hold her hands up and say the better woman won. And that's why I want a rematch. So I want to put that right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's our business.
That's the boxing game. And as we always talk about this, you lay it all on the line. You put it out there in the ring. You knock lumps out of each other. At the end of it, you want to have that sort of respect between two. But it doesn't mean you have to like the person.
No,
there just has to be some sort of respect.
Absolutely.
Between two.
Respect and like are two different things. Mickey Duff, the famous fight manager, once said about Lloyd Hunnigan, who he took to a world title, who he hated, and Hunnigan hated him. He said, "There's nothing in my contract with Lloyd that says I have to like him." And that's the truth.
It's so true. It's
absolutely.
Business.
Why make out you like them? But you've got to have respect for them. You've got to have respect for them. Before we move on, the 3 British Olympians went through the motions in some ways. Claressa Arton still had a really hard woman in front of her. Lauren Price looked really good, but her opponent looked quite poor. And Caroline Dubois looked savage.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment of the 3 of them?
I would absolutely say so. I'm really, really happy for Caroline. Obviously, I do some sparring with Caroline. And
she's big, isn't she?
She is big, but she's got class. And she's someone that I've got my eye on to see where she's going to go in.
Damn right. She's only 21 as well.
She's only 21 and she's a little star. A star in the making.
Yeah, and Caris, I'm not sure. I think Caris certainly, she's a big feather. Maybe
she's
she
huge
should be
for the weight.
Yeah, maybe she should be a little bit bigger. And maybe, and I think with a little bit of weight and less of a struggle to get, even though she say it's not a struggle, because all you fighters say that, it's not a struggle. Oh, you just sawed your leg off. Yeah, but it's still not a struggle. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, and then afterwards they realise, I don't know, I did that, but it's neither here nor there. So I think Caris moves on. Lauren just looks so comfortable, and she was 10 stone 5. She was 15 pounds below the weight she won the Olympics at last year, and the World Championships a few years ago, and the European Championships, and the Commonwealths. She just slotted down to welter, and she's doing welter comfy.
Yeah, she looks really comfy. I think she found, she was never a full middleweight, actually, when she was in. She didn't try because it gave her the advantage of the speed and her movement in the ring, and she could be in and out nice and fast. And, I think welterweight actually suits her. It gives her, it gives her that sort of ability just to use that speed that she's got. And as a southpaw, it's great. But yeah, I think she'll be really happy to have got the stoppage, I think, because, that gives you that confidence when you're in there fighting as a professional for going forward. But I think, obviously, they'll want to step up her opponent again for the next fight.
And they can. And they can. I mean,
absolutely. She's at the beginning of her professional career.
Beginning of a professional career, but not the beginning of a boxing life.
No.
So she can move. Claressa Arton still, Lauren Price and Caroline Dubois, 2023, 2024, 2025, they'll give us, I'd like to say it now, they'll give us 20, between them, 20, maybe 15 big nights. And I really mean that. And who knows, you never know, you might even slip into one of those big nights. That's neither here nor there. I've got to ask you, and I didn't do it last week, you've had a busy year this year.
Yeah.
You had a tough year with your opponent in Glasgow, suffering an injury, thankfully making a brilliant recovery.
Yes.
And then you lost your title to Terry Harper. Second, I've apologised for mentioning it. I've now mentioned it twice.
No.
But you've had a big old year. Then you had the training camp in Miami, and you had the bad cut, which is brilliantly healed and sealed.
what's your plan going forward? February, March?
Yeah, looking about February, March, time to get back out again. I'll be staying at super welterweight. That's my weight class. And we'll be back out around that time, probably about an 8-rounder, get back into it, and then work my way back up to where I belong and be challenging for those world titles again.
And in all fairness, you're back in the mix, one win, to be straightforward.
Yeah.
A couple of other things that happened this weekend, in fact, loads of things happened this weekend, but I just want to ask you about a couple of them. We'll deal with, I think, one of the most unnecessary rematches in history, Devin Haney having to go back to Australia to fight against George Kambosos. No disrespect to Kambosos. He invoked the rematch clause, and so he should, because he can make his money. But Devin Haney, I think, did it a bit easier and looked like he possibly could have got to Kambosos in that last round. 12th round of a 3-minute fight, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I'm jealous. But yeah, no, I just think that, obviously that was Kambosos' right to actually, get that rematch going, and it was his opportunity to try again. But I just think Haney's of a different level to him. And so, the fight had to happen, and the fight happened.
Yeah.
But I do feel that maybe both of them looked a little bit tight at the weight, actually, at the weigh-in.
I think Haney specifically
is going to have to step up.
Going to step up, and if he moves up, there's a lot of big fights over
Exciting
there.
Fights for him.
Lomachenko can move up a little bit because he's naturally a bit smaller, but he's be chasing Teofimo Lopez, and who knows what's happening with Josh Taylor's old belts. I can't keep up with who's fighting for which of his old belts. That's not even there. And before I leave you, and before I say thank you to you for what's been 10 odd days or 8 odd days of fantasticness, it was the return of Deontay Wilder.
Yes.
Now, he's warned us for years. They got to be good for 36 minutes. I've got to be good for 1 second. Well, Robert Helenius wasn't good for that 1 second. Tell me what happened.
Incredible knockout, and welcome back to the heavyweight division, Deontay Wilder. And he was back with style. He was just stepping back, and it wasn't even fully extended on the shot. He just landed
about a 9-inch shot.
It was
a 9 or 10-inch shot for a 6'3" man.
I mean, Wilder has that right hand from God. He is blessed with that, and he's explosive, and he was back down at the lower weight again, which I really think suits him.
A couple of stone lighter than he was against Tyson Fury.
Absolutely, and I think it's so great that he's now back with the heavyweight division, because I think that makes a good mix of things happening now.
And and Robert Helenius, by the way, is no slouch. He's a good fighter, Helenius. And had he gone 6 or 7 rounds and dropped Helenius a couple of times with cuffing shots to the back of the ear, that would have been okay. But he took him out cleanly with a sweet and short right hand. He set him up for it. Helenius was iconic picture on the floor, eyes wide open, looking up at the lights, completely gone. That was the statement Deontay Wilder wanted to send.
He needed that
on
as
a weekend. Hannah, it's been a pleasure talking to you as always. It always is a pleasure talking to you. What a weekend we've had of boxing after a dreadful week. A night at the O2 that will live in the memory of everybody that was there. Savannah Marshall was valiant, heroic. Claressa Shields was quite sensational. Then across the pond, I think it was New York, who cares? It was in America somewhere. Deontay Wilder said, I'm back, fellas. This is what it takes. One short right hand. Doesn't even have to travel 18, 20 inches. 7 or 8 inches will knock out the giant Viking. And I'll do that to the rest of you, he said. Oh, it feels good to be in the boxing business when Deontay Wilder's knocking people out. And Savannah Marshall and Claressa Shields are doing that. You've been listening to me, Steve Bunce. It has been a pleasure. This was 5 Live Boxing.
Let's get ready to rumble!
5 Live Boxing.